Greetings all, Ferrariman601 here. Welcome to the live commentary stream for the 2018 British Grand Prix. The British Grand Prix, many consider this to be the holy grail of Formula One racing, as back in 1950, the first race under what we now know as the Formula One World Championship regulations was held here at the Silverstone circuit. In the 60-odd years that have followed on, yes, the circuit has changed quite a bit. However, it is still Silverstone, and this is still the spiritual home of not only British motorsport, but of Formula One. The Sky Sports World feed just showing the grid walk here. We have Martin Brundle joined by Jenson Button, actually, on the grid here at Silverstone. This is going to be maybe an interesting affair. I do have to say Button has been doing a very good job thus far. Official word from Race Control, the risk of rain for this session here in England is actually 0%, if you could believe that. We've not seen any rain all weekend long at Silverstone, and it does appear that that is going to continue throughout the balance of today's race. Meanwhile, speaking of today's race, how do our 20 Formula One drivers line up on the grid? They are led by car number 44, the reigning world champion, Lewis Hamilton, in his Mercedes. That was an absolutely immense lap that he put together yesterday. However, the P2 lap for Ferrari Sebastian Vettel was just as fantastic, only 44 thousandths of a second between Hamilton and Vettel in qualifying, and Sebastian Vettel was dealing with a little bit of a neck issue yesterday. Hopefully, that has all sorted itself out over the night, but Vettel, even not being in 100% physical condition, able to get onto the front row of the grid, just a fraction behind Hamilton. P3 for Kimi Räikkönen, who himself looked on point to be taking pole position yesterday. However, he messed up his hot lap in Sector 2, and that blew the lap not only for P1, but also for P2 as well. P3, car number 77, the second Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. P5, Max Verstappen, the winner last weekend in Austria. He's in 5th today. His teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, is in 6th, immediately behind. P7, Kevin Magnussen in the first of the Haas cars. And P8, Romain Grosjean in the second Haas. Haas apparently going to have another great weekend. They scored big points a week ago in Austria. Perhaps they can replicate that feat today. P9 for Charles Leclerc in the first of the Saubers. This guy is having a great season. It's his rookie year in Formula One. He is driving the dog of a car that is a Sauber, and he's qualified in Q3 yet again. Esteban Ocon in the first of the Force Indias in P10, rounding out your Q3 finishers from yesterday. P11, Nico Hülkenberg in the first of the Renaults. They could not salvage his engine after it expired in spectacular fashion last weekend on the start-finish straight. Therefore, engine changes for Hülkenberg. P12, Sergio Perez in the second of the Force Indias. P13, Fernando Alonso in the beleaguered McLaren Renault. P13 is the best that he could do. P14, Pierre Gasly in the first of the Toro Rossos. He lines up next to Marcus Ericsson in the second Sauber in P15. Carlos Sainz in P16 in the second Renault. Stoffel Van Dorn P18 in the second McLaren. The Williams cars of Sergei Sirotkin and Lance Stroll line up in 18th and 19th respectively. Still no pace in that Williams. They're currently listed in the pit lane. We'll see where they start. P20, Brendan Hartley in the second Toro Rosso. That covers our starting grid. Again, we have Lewis Hamilton leading Sebastian Vettel, leading Kimi Räikkönen off of the line. The conditions here seem to be absolutely perfect, and we should have good conditions for running race cars. Will they be able to have some good racing? Well, that remains to be seen. I, for one, am very excited as to what's going to happen off of the start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Salutations to everybody who has joined us so far. Thank you very much for being here. How is everyone today? Apparently we are swell and good like the weather. Yes, Jonathan Straitman. Silverstone, it is very sunny and somewhat uncharacteristically, at least in the stereotypical ideas about the British Isles that we get, it hasn't rained once this entire weekend. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know, but I would like to see a proper wet race this year. Of course, the middle of summer at temperate latitudes, well, that's not all that likely, I must say. Sim Racer Flight Sim 1000 asking quite simply, what the hell is wrong with Williams? Well, nobody really knows what the hell is wrong with Williams. For the most part, you can say that they have lost a lot of their very good key technical personnel either to other teams or they've simply retired because they've gotten too old and their design has fallen into such a state where they can't get the car to be on the pace, and you can argue the same thing for McLaren. You're only as good as your last result in the world of motorsport, and Williams haven't had a good result in a very long time. This means that they have trouble attracting the right sponsors and trouble attracting the right technical personnel and, quite honestly, trouble attracting the right drivers. Both Stroll and Sirotkin currently driving that car. They are pay drivers. They are injecting millions of dollars per year into the team. And one could argue that that is the reason, and not their driving talent. That's the reason, their money, why they are currently driving those cars. Again, I could be crucified for that comment, but thinking like a businessman, if I could run a driver and make money off of him at the same time, that's what I'm going to do, especially if I'm in trouble. McLaren in a similar predicament. Obviously, they don't have paid drivers, but McLaren having issues attracting the right sponsors given their lack of performance. Now we've got flat screen monitors in the McLaren pit area. Yeah, that's definitely going to help. And that's the issue that I see with a lot of the teams that are struggling, both now and throughout history. For example, Williams, there was an email that went out. It was actually spied on TV in Austria. Claire Williams sending an email to one of her key technical people that he was wearing a t-shirt and shorts on the pit wall. Well, you know, it doesn't really matter what you're wearing as long as you have, pace in the car. So Claire Williams is preoccupied with what her engineers are wearing on the pit wall. Meanwhile, they are lining up 18th, 19th, and 20th pretty consistently every single weekend. Maybe your priorities are a little bit misplaced there, Claire. McLaren, if they really do have flat screen TVs in their pit area, again, priorities. Where are they? Yeah, and yes, F1 teams are not that good with money. They're not. Formula One is probably the most expensive sporting enterprise on the planet, and these teams just hemorrhage money. And it's not because they're being irresponsible with it, it's because everything just costs so much. For example, the front wing on a Formula One car costs someplace in the region of 50,000 euro. The steering wheel also costs about 50,000 euro. A set of tires, who knows? Probably not as expensive as you might think, given that Pirelli are making them for the whole field now. But a driver's helmet, 20,000 euro, something around there. The halo on top of the car, that probably costs 100,000 euro, considering how strong it has to be and still remain light. This is not a cheap thing to do. The engines here, the teams are probably going to spend $10 million a year on engines, if not more than that. So that's where the money goes. The teams that develop things well, they're obviously going to make it all back and then some with the TV money and the prize money. But the teams at the back of the field are still spending that much on the car. But if you're not scoring any points, guess what? You're not really making any money. Yes, I do have to say, Haas, they have done a very good job with budgeting not only their money, but their development time on the car and making sure that they've got everything ready for the races. The last time an American outfit attempted to enter Formula One was back in 2010. It was called USF1, the little parody of a team that it turned out to be. They had an entire year to develop a car, and the Bahrain Grand Prix came around for 2010, and that was the first round of the championship, and they didn't even have a single monocoque built up with an engine blank in there just to test that the structure of the car worked. Never mind any chances to get to Bahrain, never mind any drivers signed. It was an absolute mess. Meanwhile, Haas over here, they show up in 2016. They've got their car built early. They show up to Australia. They do a great job. They do absolutely fantastically in their first 6 or so races as a team. And they fall out at the end of 2016 a little bit. They come back with 17 with a reasonably strong car. They get some good finishes, and this year they've got a really strong car. I think it's got a lot of Ferrari SF78 in it, but still, Haas have a good car. They've got 2 consistent drivers in Grosjean and Magnussen. Grosjean didn't have the best start to the season, but now he's coming on form, and Magnussen has been right up there in the mid-pack of the point scorers pretty much every race this year. So they're doing a very good job, and it's going to be very exciting to see where they come next. We've got computer upgrades forthcoming for Sim Racer Flight Sim 1000. That is good. Also, which flight sims are you running? Nathan Tanti saying you could pull off a 127 with the F2004 at Silverstone. Yep, I definitely believe you. The MP420 from VRC could pull off a 126, so the F2004 should be right around there as well. Sim Racer Flight Sim 1000, X-Plane 11, and P3D 4.3. That's cool. I'm running P3D 4.3 as well. Absolutely excellent. I don't run X-Plane. I tried to run X-Plane 10, I think it was, and it was absolutely buggy for me, so I abandoned that idea. But P3D is quite nice. Detour asking, is there going to be a proper F1 2006 mod for Assetto Corsa? As far as I know, there are no plans to make any 2006 mods or even a single 2006 car for Assetto Corsa. The closest we have right now that's actually good quality content and then something you should bother having is the VRC mods of the Ferrari F2007 and McLaren MP422. Obviously, those are 2007 cars, but they are very nicely done. They're totally worth you having, and they're both free now that they've gone past 1.0. But for the moment, there are no fully compatible and ready to go 2006 cars for Assetto Corsa. Yes, it is hot at Silverstone. It's apparently hot in Belgium, and it's also been hot here on the east coast of the United States for the last week or so. We're measuring in old money over here, but on Monday it was 103 Fahrenheit, so that is roughly 41 degrees C. It's been pretty hot. Meanwhile, we are just approaching 10 past the hour at Silverstone, and pretty much everywhere else in the world, unless you're in the North Korean time zone. The tire blankets are off, the engines are started, the drivers are putting their helmet visors down. We're standing by for the start of the formation lap, which should happen within the next 30 seconds. Nathan Dante, yes, I am going to be buying F1 2018. I'm actually somewhat looking forward to it. I do want to see some of the more classic cars coming in. The classic cars that were in 2017 are coming back as far as I know, and we're also getting a few more classics, the Braun BGP 001, Williams FW26. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be fun, I think. It's not a hardcore serious sim, but I think it's something that could make some good videos. Meanwhile, the master clock at the start of the grid has just ticked to 10 past the hour, the lights have gone green, and the field has rolled off on the formation lap. Dayton Cooper, you're asking me, I drive hundreds of virtual cars. What's your real life daily? I'm assuming you mean which car do I drive every day? Well, my daily driver is a 2013 Toyota Tacoma. Yeah, it's not too glamorous. It's a twin cab with a single bench seat, 2 doors, 5-speed manual gearbox, and roll-up windows. It's completely stripped out, but that's the daily driver, and I've got to say it is the most reliable car I've ever had. My second car, it's basically a weekend car. It's a 2012 BMW 328xi. Meanwhile, the field has made their way throh Kopp's Corner, which is now in Sector 2 of this completely re-engineered Silverstone circuit. We're heading through the Beckett's complex as we head toward Hangar Straight here at a much reduced pace on the formation lap. Not tracking any incidents which have occurred in the course of the formation lap. Everybody is still underway and just getting their tires and brakes up to temperature while not allowing their engines to get too hot. On board with Max Verstappen here, he is running in P5, just putting some energy into his front axle. Tire pressures there for Max Verstappen are visibly low. You can see a vibration coming through there, through the front axle as he was going into Stowe Corner. Very cool to see that. He's definitely going to want to rectify that situation before the lights go out and he goes flat out into the first corner here. Meanwhile, the camera's picking up Brendan Hartley in the pit lane. Toro Rosso still haven't got wheels or a front wing on his car. Car is up in the air on high stands. Not quite sure he's going to be ready in time for the race start. Meanwhile, Toto Wolff shouting commands over the Mercedes radio as his men have stopped on the grid in positions 1 and 4, respectively. On board with Lewis Hamilton going through his pre-start checks. Looks like he's just waiting for the lights at this point. The last car to join the grid here is going to be Stoffel Van Dorn in P17. Sirotkin, Stroll, and Hartley all starting from the pit lane. The medical car is in position. The green flag is up at the back. Here come the lights for the 2018 British Grand Prix. Lights are out, and we are away. A little bit of a delayed reaction from seemingly the entire field, but the Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel gets a brilliant start and takes the lead into turn 1. The two Mercedes are side by side through the high-speed right-hander. Sebastian Vettel in the lead of the British Grand Prix into turn 1. Absolutely brilliant. There was contact there between Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Räikkönen. Lewis Hamilton has been punted off into the runoff there, heading into turn 3. Hamilton has rejoined the circuit. He is last running. Sebastian Vettel leads from Valtteri Bottas in P2. Max Verstappen has made his way up into P3. Daniel Ricciardo challenging into Sector 2. Daniel Ricciardo is unable to overhaul his teammate. Verstappen retains P3 for the moment. We're coming through the Luffield corner and the Woodcote corner. Can Danny Ricciardo get a run? Meanwhile, Kimi Räikkönen running now in P5 behind Danny Ricciardo. He has a big run as we're approaching Kopp's corner. However, he's going to have to back out of that. There's no way he's going to overtake into Kopp's. However, I will be proven wrong. Kimi Räikkönen overtakes Danny Ricciardo into Kopp's corner. That took some real bravery, I must say. That is a flat-out 8th gear corner on a really fast lap. We have waved yellow flags in Sector 1. I did see some smoke up at the back behind where Lewis Hamilton went off. I'm not entirely sure who that was. Trying to get a handle on what happened. I'm seeing Sergio Perez classified in P19 now. He also had an incident of some kind at the start. We have yet to see it on the world feed. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, running in P17, has already overhauled Lance Stroll, and we're not even at the end of lap 1 yet. As the field comes across the stripe at the end of the first lap, the order is Vettel, from Bottas, from Verstappen, from Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Leclerc, Ocon, Sainz, and Magnussen, your top 10. Alonso already up into P11, Pierre Gasly up into P12, Grosjean a big loser there, down into P13, but Lewis Hamilton went from P1 to P17 in the space of 1 lap. Lance Stroll is up 1 position into P18, and Sergio Perez down 7 spots to be your last car running at this time, P19. On board with Lewis Hamilton, he is challenging on Sergei Sirotkin. Hamilton radio. Hamilton over the radio saying that his right rear is damaged. His team says tire pressures look fine as Hamilton dives down the inside of Sirotkin into Kopp's corner for P16. Move done. We still have a yellow flag in Sector 1 as between turns 2 and 3. Rather, between turns 5 and 6. Yellows have been stubbed down. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas, the gap between himself and Sebastian Vettel, P2 to P1, 3.4 seconds already. Valtteri Bottas, yet again, cannot get on the pace here. If he wants to stay at Mercedes next year, he's going to have to figure out how to do that. That was his race, honestly, to win at that point. Couldn't convert anything. Meanwhile, Sebastian Vettel sets fastest lap of the day so far, 132.918. Paul di Resta on the Sky Sports World feed, he is saying that Lewis Hamilton didn't leave Kimi Räikkönen enough space there into turn 2. We're going to see what actually happened. We need a replay. I did not get a clear view of what actually happened between Räikkönen and Hamilton at the start. Another yellow flag being waved in Sector 1. Meanwhile, Sector 1, purple time for Kimi Räikkönen. He has... I'm trying to say that could be something with timing and scoring. We're going to find out. Sector 1, Räikkönen, 29.427. Compare that to Sebastian Vettel last time through, 29.537. Lewis Hamilton has made his way up into P14 now. He has passed Perez, Stroll, Sirotkin, Van Dorn, and Ericsson. His next target will be Romain Grosjean, whom he is approaching at the moment, heading into Stowe Corner. Not quite close enough to make anything work. Hamilton on the radio saying that I've lost part of my floor, I'm sure. Now, obviously, the floor on the Formula One cars these days is an extremely important piece of the aerodynamic package, as the under tray in the floor contains the diffuser section, and manipulating the airflow underneath the car as well as around the lower sides of the car, very important for making these cars generate downforce. So if Hamilton is missing a section of that floor, he will definitely notice it in terms of rear end stability through high-speed corners, which is a bit unfortunate for him because Silverstone is almost all high-speed corners, particularly in Sector 2 and starting Sector 3. Replay of the start, Kimi Räikkönen moves aside to to cover off Valtteri Bottas into turn 1. They make it through turn 1 okay. Turn 2 is just a fast left-hand kink. Sergio Perez goes across the grass there through turn 1. That camera angle cuts out and doesn't show us what happened to Hamilton and Raikkonen. Hamilton just got a bad start. He bogged down a lot, particularly in the second phase of the clutch release. Sebastian Vettel was just gone, as was his teammate Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton turns into the apex, and yeah, he's hit in the right rear by Kimi Raikkonen. Here's an angle that we need to see. Raikkonen locks up into turn 3. And he hits Hamilton in the side there. On board with Kimi Raikkonen, this will show us very well. Raikkonen, bit of a lock up into 3. It's nothing too untoward. Raikkonen was on line for the apex, and it was just contact there between the left front wheel of Raikkonen and the right rear wheel of Lewis Hamilton. I didn't see any parts of the cars flying off. Both cars should live to fight another day after that. Meanwhile, Perez seems to have lost it all by himself into turn 1. There might have been some incidental contact, and that was scary. One of the Williams cars coming out of the pit lane, taking the start from the pit lane, very nearly flew into the front of the Force India as it's coming across the pit exit backwards out of control. That was quite hair-raising stuff. Obviously, everybody lives to fight another day there. Now here is an interesting question for the stewards. You gave Sebastian Vettel a penalty for hitting Valtteri Bottas with a locked-up wheel at Paul Ricard. Do you give Kimi Raikkonen a penalty for hitting Lewis Hamilton with a locked-up wheel? Come on, Mr. Stewards. If everything is fair and equal here, Kimi Raikkonen should be getting a penalty. Just for the sake of clarification, I thought that penalty against Vettel in France was absolutely ridiculous, and if they were to give Kimi a penalty for what happened here, that would be equally ridiculous. However, if we want things to be fair and equal for everybody, then expect race control to be handing a penalty out to car number 7. We'll wait and see if that actually happens. SimRacer Flight Sim 1000, you're right in thinking that Formula 1 cars are mostly topside aero. They are, for the most part. The topside aero on these cars, it's still a little bit more simple than it had been in the years gone by. Think about 2006 through 2008 when they really went crazy with all of the little winglets and chimneys and things like that. But still, topside aero mainly through your front and rear wings, and then how they're able to manipulate the airflow across the midsection of the car. That's still the most important part of how these cars generate downforce. The undertray, though, it is a very important piece of the overall aero package. It does contribute quite a substantial amount of downforce, particularly around high-speed corners like we have here at Silverstone. But yes, these Formula 1 cars are still very much topside aero cars. It's part of the reason why they can't follow closely nose to tail through high-speed corners, because the air, as it's forced out of the car, it basically just gets shot straight up into the air, and it does not come back down in any sort of order, so it creates a lot of turbulence, and it affects the efficiency of the front wing of the car behind. Hamilton Radio. Couldn't quite make out what Lewis Hamilton was saying there over the radio, but he does not seem at all happy. He's currently running in P10. He's back into the points already after only 7 laps. There's Kimi Raikkonen locking up again as he's in pursuit of Max Verstappen for P3. That was exactly what happened at the start. Kimi Raikkonen, 10-second penalty for causing a collision. Well, at least the stewards are consistent. I think this is complete nonsense, and that it was a racing incident, as it was between Bottas and Vettel in France. However, if the stewards don't want drivers to go for it off the start, I guess that sends a very clear message. If I were Kimi Raikkonen, I would just basically wait for everybody to pass me at the start of every Grand Prix and then take off in a very ginger and civilized fashion. How much will it take for the FIA to understand that these are race cars and racing drivers on a race track? If you're not going to try and go for a position, then you may as well not show up. I would definitely like an explanation from the stewards as to why he's been given double the penalty that was given to Sebastian Vettel. Honestly, I think it has to do with nepotism. This is the British Grand Prix, and Kimi Räikkönen spun around the British reigning world champion. And yes, I would definitely think that's the reason. A 10-second stop-go penalty, that's most likely going to put Lewis Hamilton back up into P4 by some point. Kimi Räikkönen, he is, let's see, 1.3 seconds back. He's 11 seconds. Hamilton's 25 seconds behind the race leader at this time. Depending on how he's able to come back up through the field, Lewis Hamilton could theoretically finish this race ahead of Kimi Räikkönen now due to that penalty. Yes, if you watch the onboard of Räikkönen into Turn 3, you do see that he has his right front wheel locked up. However, it's not a full lockup. The wheel is rotating a little bit as Räikkönen is ramping off of the brake pedal. So this proves that Räikkönen knows the wheel is locked up and he's trying to get it rotating again. It's very difficult to come out of a lockup, particularly while you're turning, just the way the weight transfer works on these cars. But Räikkönen knew he was locked up, and he was trying to get that wheel rotating again. That proves that it was not a deliberate action. That proves that he was actually trying to correct what had happened. So if you think that Kimi Räikkönen deliberately ran into Lewis Hamilton, you need to learn something about how driving cars works. Meanwhile, working lap 9 of 52 of the British Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel continuing to lead over Valtteri Bottas. The gap between those two gentlemen is 5.629 seconds. Max Verstappen is a further 4.6 seconds behind in P3. Kimi Räikkönen P4. Ricciardo P5. Hülkenberg in 6th. Charles Leclerc still running in 7th. Great start for him. P8 already, Lewis Hamilton. P9, Esteban Ocon. And P10, Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton overtaking Charles Leclerc for P7. Mercedes makes very easy work of the Sauber. That's into Stowe Corner as well. That's not generally a spot you would think about overtaking somebody, but there it was. Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion here, and so am I. One of the beauties of freedom of expression means that you can say whatever you want, no matter how ridiculous it makes you look, and I can say how ridiculous it makes you look. Again, just my opinion. Regardless, Räikkönen given a penalty for causing a collision per race control. Lewis Hamilton in pursuit of Nico Hülkenberg already. Lewis Hamilton following Nico Hülkenberg through Copse Corner. The gap has come down to less than 1/10 of a second between these two guys. Fully expecting Lewis Hamilton to be overtaking Hülkenberg down the hanger straight, particularly with that DRS assist. Hamilton opens the flap on his rear wing. He pulls up 8th gear, doing 327 kilometers an hour into Stowe Corner. Hamilton makes easy work of the Renault. Lewis Hamilton up into P6 already. Meanwhile, cameras have picked up Sebastian Vettel, who leads Valtteri Bottas by 6 seconds. Lewis Hamilton is absolutely flying here. Could this be the storyline of the year, Lewis Hamilton's recovery drive at Silverstone? It certainly is possible. We'll see what transpires, but right now, one of the red cars is leading. Alright, Daniel Ricciardo is 13 seconds up the road from Lewis Hamilton, so we won't see any changes of position, Hamilton relative to anybody else, for the foreseeable future. Hamilton is going to want to close that gap as much as possible before making his first pit stop, and we'll see if that's his only pit stop. But Hamilton definitely is going to stay on the charge. Now this is the test for Hamilton. Raikkonen radio. Kimi Räikkönen on the radio to Ferrari saying, look, I was trying to be aggressive and we get a penalty. So I think he closed out that message saying, well, okay, I won't overtake anymore. Is that not what I've been saying and what a lot of you have been saying? If you get a penalty for a racing driver acting like a racing driver, then quite honestly, why bother showing up? Detour asking, who does race control consist of? Well, this is the other problem that we have with the way Formula One is run. We generally don't know who is actually making the decisions in the race. We know of one guy who's a constant. His name is Charlie Whiting. He is the FIA clerk of the course for every Grand Prix. He is running the affairs. He's the guy who physically hits the switch to run the start lights at the start of the Grand Prix. He is the chief FIA safety delegate. He is in control of the race weekend at all times. But every circuit has their own team of people who will be making decisions in terms of incidents on track and delegating blame to the responsible parties. There are FIA-appointed stewards who can go to any race. There are also track-sanctioned stewards. Sometimes these guys are former racing drivers themselves, and other times they're people that we've never heard of before, who have never driven a race car before. So I don't know who's actually been making these decisions. As far as I'm aware, either myself or any of you in the audience are fully qualified to be an FIA race steward, even if you've never driven a race car. Kimi Räikkönen coming to the pit lane for his first stop, working lap 14 of 52. Let's see if Kimi serves this 10-second penalty in the pit stop. It does appear so. The mechanics are not touching the car for 10 seconds. Now the Ferrari mechanics go to work. 4 tires off, 4 tires on, and Raikkonen released back into the pit lane. Raikkonen did not get a front wing change there. I don't really see any damage on that front wing on the 71H. And Raikkonen rejoins the racetrack. He has rejoined in P11. Lewis Hamilton is now in P5. So just as we predicted, after that 10-second penalty for Raikkonen, he's down in P10 and Hamilton is up in P5. I don't understand how that is fair in any way. Kimi Raikkonen had a good start. Hamilton had a bad start, yet Hamilton now is 5 positions up the road ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. I truly don't understand how that actually makes that situation any better or somehow atones for anything. Hamilton radio. Mercedes telling Hamilton that he's doing a great job. Hamilton is 10 seconds down the road from Daniel Ricciardo in P4. We'll continue to watch his pace. Working lap 15 of 52. The order is Sebastian Vettel leads from Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton in P5, Hülkenberg P6, Leclerc in 7th, Ocon 8th, Sainz 9th, and Kimi Raikkonen now in P10. Kimi Raikkonen has gone purple in Sector 3 at 25.2 dead. Kevin Creighton, I agree. I would love to see Kimi Raikkonen winning at least one more Grand Prix. He's been in Formula 1 for so long at this point, and it's been such a long time since he's managed to win a race. Meanwhile, speaking of Kimi Raikkonen, he's just put himself into P9 ahead of Carlos Sainz. Fernando Alonso running in P17. He had been as high as 11th at one point. He made a pit stop. He's now on the medium compound tires. I'm not aware of any issues for Fernando Alonso. We really haven't seen him on television. In replay, on board with Kimi Raikkonen overtaking Carlos Sainz down the Wellington Straight. Easy overtake there. Straight line speed between the Renault and the Ferrari, pretty much no comparison. Cameras picking up Charles Leclerc in pursuit of Nico Hülkenberg. This is for P6. Fastest Sector 1 time, Kimi Raikkonen. And also fastest lap of the race, 132.270. Compare that to Sebastian Vettel, who last time by did a 134.183. Lewis Hamilton last time by a 133.710. And the world feed continuing to follow Hülkenberg and Leclerc running in P6 and P7 respectively. On board with Kimi Raikkonen, he is right behind Esteban Ocon coming down to the Wellington Straight out of that very tight left-hand hairpin. Raikkonen should have DRS on Ocon down the straight, and this should be another academic affair in terms of an overtake. Kimi Raikkonen lines up the move, and job done. Raikkonen now up into P8. Lewis Hamilton was hit at the start by Kimi Raikkonen, and this was after Hamilton didn't get a very good start. He lost the lead and second place immediately to Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas. Raikkonen had a decent start behind. Raikkonen had the inside line going into turn 3. Hamilton was on the outside, and basically, whether you want to say Raikkonen hit Hamilton or Hamilton hit Raikkonen, either way, both cars made contact and Hamilton pirouetted off to the back of the field. Obviously, he has since resumed, and he's currently running in P5. It's almost as if nothing had happened at this point. Raikkonen served a 10-second penalty, and he is now up into P8 after having dropped back to P10. Sim Racer Flight Sim 1000, I definitely remember that Montoya comment, having to ask for permission to overtake. He was right 10 years ago, and he would still be right today, as we have proven in France and again here today at Silverstone. Christian Gaetan, I can't really discern who hit who first. Both cars made contact. That's basically it. The left front of Raikkonen went into the right rear of Hamilton. Hamilton was ahead on the outside. Raikkonen was on the inside line, managing a little bit of a lockup on the right front wheel. But he made the corner okay. Regardless, the stewards think that Kimi Raikkonen deliberately caused a collision and gave him a 10-second penalty, which he has already served. Kimi Raikkonen up into P6. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen pits in and out for Red Bull. Going to see which tires he is on. He is on the white sidewalled medium tires. Working lap 18 of 52 there on that Verstappen stop. At this rate, he's definitely going to have to stop again. Kimi Raikkonen, purple in Sector 3 at 25.094. Raikkonen is actually lapping faster than anybody else in front of him, including Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton last time by a 133.531. Raikkonen last time by a 133.045. In replay, Raikkonen overtaking Hülkenberg for P6. Abela 458. Hello, welcome. World Feed picking up Lewis Hamilton, running by himself in P4. He is 15 seconds. Let's see. No, he's about 8.5 seconds behind Daniel Ricciardo, who pits at this moment. Ricciardo coming off of the soft sidewall, the soft compound yellow sidewall tires. Off with the old, on with the new. Mediums for Ricciardo. They release him back into the pit lane. Red Bull boys seem happy with that stop. 2.6 seconds was the stop time. Hamilton inherits P3. So Lewis Hamilton, in the space of 19 laps, goes from pole position to 19th, now up into 3rd and in contention for the podium. That's how fast that Mercedes is. Kimi Raikkonen, fastest lap of the race, a 132.135 down there in P6. Danny Ricciardo resumes in P5. Charles Leclerc in and out of the pits. A little bit of a front wing adjustment for the Monegasque. He's also onto the medium compound tires. Yellow flag out in Sector 2. See if we can get some more information about that. Charles Leclerc resuming. He has gone very slowly. Yellow flag in Sector 1 now. Leclerc tumbling down the order. And the Monegasque bringing the Sauber to a stop in Sector 1. What has happened to Charles Leclerc? He was having such a good day. Was there a problem on the pit stop? Did they not get all the wheels on? What happened? Let's see, on board with Leclerc in this pit stop. What happened or didn't happen? Wheel nut never went on the left front. That was not the angle we needed to see. Left front did go on. It was a rear tire. I believe the right rear tire for Charles Leclerc was never secured properly. That brings an end to his day, and undoubtedly that's going to be a fine for the Sauber team for releasing the car in an unsafe condition. Regardless, yellow flag out in Sector 1 as the marshals will be recovering that car. Watching Kimi Räikkönen and Danny Ricciardo in P6 and P5 respectively. Ricciardo has P5, Räikkönen wants it. The gap between Ricciardo and Räikkönen is 0.8 of a second at this point. Räikkönen, if he remains in this position, will get DRS down the hangar straight. Sebastian Vettel in the pits. Race leader is in. Bottas inherits the race lead. Ferrari, 4 tires off, 4 tires on. Get them all bolted, please, and thank you. Sebastian Vettel released on the medium compound tires. Everything appears to have gone well for the Ferrari pit stop. Sebastian Vettel rejoining. It appears that he rejoins in P2 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Sebastian Vettel now on fresh rubber. Lewis Hamilton's tires are 24 laps old, and he's been charging through the field on them. There's no way Hamilton's going to be able to challenge Sebastian Vettel, at least not on this set of tires. And of course, when he makes his pit stop, there goes the pit stop delta. Kimi Räikkönen going off at turn 1. Nothing to hit out there. Yep, just a little bit of a twitch on the Ferrari. Lost the back end momentarily. It was enough to put him off. He recovers, no incident. Unless he gets a penalty for cutting up the grass. Bottas in the pits at this point. Sebastian Vettel will resume the race lead. Also going to expect Lewis Hamilton in anytime soon. Bottas enters the pit lane. Sebastian Vettel will be re-inheriting the race lead at this point. He is the leader on aggregate. The Mercedes stops on the marks. 4 wheels off, 4 wheels on, onto the medium tires for Valtteri Bottas. Good stop by the Mercedes boys, 2.4 seconds. Lewis Hamilton running in P2. He is 2.6 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel, who has retaken the race lead. Lewis Hamilton has yet to make a pit stop. Sim Racer Flight Sim 1000, you have hit the nail right on the head. The FIA, they continue to do ridiculous things with the rules that nobody has asked for, and well, you're starting to see the result of it. Fewer people are tuning into Formula One, and more people are tuning into other forms of motorsport. I know here in the United States, the IndyCar series, which is the closest the United States has to its own sort of Formula One regulations, it has gained immensely in popularity over the last 5 years, and it continues to do so. This year, IndyCar listened to the fans. They've given us a car that is not necessarily faster than the old one, but it's a whole lot more exciting to watch. It looks better. It's actually a bit more difficult to drive. We get to see the drivers sawing at the wheel and things. Remember, IndyCar, they don't have power steering, but it delivers good racing both on road courses as well as on ovals. Remember, the IndyCar series, they have to make a car that can run on ovals and road courses and do both equally well. They really do it. So, hats off to them. I'll be going to the IndyCar race at Pocono in Pennsylvania next month, toward the middle of August, and it's always a great time, and yeah, very much looking forward to it. IndyCar definitely showing us a good spectacle over the last couple of years. Formula One, they continue to do things to slow the cars down, to make them heavier, and quite honestly, I'm tired of it. Watching the two Mercedes men, Valtteri Bottas ahead of Lewis Hamilton now. Hamilton's tires are 26 laps old, Bottas on fresh rubber. Yeah, Jonathan Straitman, go on the IndyCar YouTube channel and you can find full races there. They're posted completely uncut, totally for free. You'll never see Formula One do that. Meanwhile, World Feed picking up Daniel Ricciardo and Kimi Räikkönen. Ricciardo in 5th, Räikkönen in 6th. Kimi is about 0.7 of a second behind the Red Bull. Coming into the Wellington Straight, he'll have DRS, and we'll see if Räikkönen can make any sort of inroads. Our order has resumed to what it had been. Hamilton radio. Hamilton on the radio saying, yeah, maybe one more lap, so expecting Lewis Hamilton in at any time. Last point on IndyCar, they do listen to the fans. You're absolutely right about that, Christian, but at the same time, the fans have been asking for faster cars, more powerful cars. By 2021, IndyCar is going to be pumping out 950 to 1,000 horsepower. So in 2021, depending on what Formula One actually does, IndyCar could be just as fast as Formula One, too. Our race order, working lap 25 of 52 in this 2018 British Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel leads by 3.3 seconds over Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton in P3, Max Verstappen in 4th. P5 for Daniel Ricciardo, P6 for Kimi Räikkönen. He is just 0.9 of a second behind Daniel Ricciardo. P7 for Kevin Magnussen, P8 Roman Grosjean, P9 Marcus Ericsson, who makes a pit stop as I speak, P10 for Nico Hülkenberg. Not seeing Ericsson's pit stop on the TV screens, but he goes onto the yellow sidewall soft tires. Ericsson will be rejoining in P15, it appears. Out of the race so far are Charles Leclerc and Brendan Hartley, who, yes, Brendan Hartley did make it to the stop. He's got 17, let's see here. Yep, classified down 17 laps. Charles Leclerc out due to a bungled pit stop, unfortunately, and they never got the right rear tire secured onto that Sauber. Mercedes in the pit lane. This has to be for Lewis Hamilton. We'll see which tires they are fitting onto that car. Hamilton in the pits. Going on to the medium sidewall tires there for Lewis Hamilton. Decent stop by the Mercedes men, 3.5 seconds. Hamilton released back out into pit lane. Hamilton resumes in P6. Kevin Magnussen pitting from P7. SimRacer Flight Sim 1000, Formula One Management, they actually do have a streaming service now where you can watch coverage of a session in progress as well as access their archive where you can get access to old races. It costs about $100 a year in US money, but it does exist. A very disappointed Charles Leclerc there on the Sauber pit wall, just reporting what he can report to the engineers, trying to help Marcus Ericsson in his conquest of P15 at the moment. There is the Sauber of Charles Leclerc. No damage on that car, just couldn't get that right rear wheel affixed. Some extraordinary pictures there, actually. It's not often we get to see the underside of a modern Formula One car. There it was. Romain Grosjean in the pits, onto the medium compound tires there. Decent stop by the Haas boys, 3.7 seconds. Let's see where Grosjean resumes. It appears he will resume all the way down in P15. How about that? I do have to say, though, that Haas car looks very good this year. They've been consistent. Kevin Magnussen, at very least, has been fighting for the points pretty consistently. Grosjean has not had the best start of the season, but I think he's finally starting to come on song. Meanwhile, at the sharp end of the field, Sebastian Vettel leads Valtteri Bottas by 2.7 seconds. Further 10 seconds behind these two gentlemen is Max Verstappen. Daniel Ricciardo running in P4, Hamilton radio. Mercedes telling Hamilton you're in P6 and it's all to play for. Well, not really. Lewis Hamilton is 27 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. That's more than a pit stop. Vettel could come into the pits and Hamilton still wouldn't be winning the race. On board with Kevin Magnussen running in P10. Yes, that Haas car does look very, very good. Not quite as quick in the high-speed corners as for the front runners, but it certainly looks stable enough. Magnussen, of course, right behind Fernando Alonso, currently running in P10, the last points-paying position. He'll be in pursuit of Fernando Alonso before too long. He's on the DRS. Speaking of guys having a quiet afternoon, Fernando Alonso, he's in P9. We really haven't seen him much today, but he is out there. Fastest lap of the race, Lewis Hamilton, a 131.682. That is pretty much 2 seconds a lap quicker than anybody in front of him. Everybody in front of Hamilton running in the 33s. And yes, those of you in the chat who are talking about geopolitics, Luxembourg is a grand duchy, technically speaking, and is the only one in the world. Working lap 29 of 52 as they run right now. Sebastian Vettel would retain and extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship, 171 points over Lewis Hamilton's 153. Lewis Hamilton currently on tap to score 8 points, and Sebastian Vettel is on tap to score 25. On board with Kevin Magnussen once again, still following Fernando Alonso. World feed picking up Lewis Hamilton, still running in P6 on the medium compound tires. 131.546, another fastest lap by Hamilton. Sergei Sirotkin now getting the blue flag treatment. You know, Liechtenstein is a principality. Meanwhile, Daniel Ricciardo in the pits. Going on to the soft tires, the yellow sidewall. That is Ricciardo's second stop of the day, so this confirms a two-stop strategy is viable. Ayrton asking about Eric Pouillet being fired from McLaren. Good decision, but it came about 3 years too late. McLaren, as far as being able to be a competitive team, they are 100% finished. If, for argument's sake, they were able to survive for the next 10 years, it would take them 10 years to get back to the front of the grid. That is the amount of damage that has occurred. McLaren as a company, they have become far too large, far too corporate. They've been too busy trying to appease their international investors who have invested in their road car production, and McLaren have entirely forgotten how to build a race team and a race car. I would say within the next 10 years, McLaren are going to collapse. The same is also going to happen to Williams. There is chatter that McLaren might be able to salvage what remains of their Formula One program and go over to IndyCar. That would be cool to see, particularly if it meant that Fernando Alonso would have a full-time IndyCar drive starting next year. But McLaren's days of being the illustrious team that we all remember, they are well and truly gone. I'll go out on a limb and say that McLaren will never again win in Formula One. Lewis Hamilton lapping Lance Stroll there. Stroll running in P18. Pouillet was far from 100% of the problem. He was just the most public face of the problem. What McLaren really needs to do is get Ron Dennis back, because nobody ran that team. Nobody has run any Formula One team in the way that Ron Dennis ran McLaren. He was an utterly ruthless guy when it came to business sense and management, and he signed some of the greatest drivers we've ever seen to McLaren. He signed Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna and Mika Häkkinen and Lewis Hamilton, all of whom won championships for the team. McLaren, they really haven't had any truly great drivers in a very long time. And whoa, Marcus Ericsson, big crash. I believe that's into turn one. Very high speed off. Left rear suspension is broken on that Sauber. That had to be the cause of the incident. Big crash for Marcus Ericsson. He is moving around in the car. This is going to be a safety car, if not a red flag. We have marshals running over to the scene of the accident. This must be a safety car situation. Get somebody out there to control this field. That is the fastest corner on the racetrack, taken flat out in 8th gear. No barrier between where Ericsson is and where the race cars are going at full speed. We need a safety car for this. Marshall's out on track. And you saw how easily you can go off there. Safety car deployed, confirmed. Safety car deployed here, working lap number 33 of 52. Again, a big incident for Marcus Ericsson. He is climbing out of the car under his own power. He does appear to be okay. That was a very nasty-looking crash, though. Marcus Ericsson is getting out of the car. That is very good to see. In replay, Marcus Ericsson, wow, he was already sideways before he even got to the apex of turn one. Something doubtlessly broke on the car. Not entirely sure what this was. Initially, I thought that the left rear suspension may have broken. It appears that the suspension broke after the impact with the wall, as you might expect. Ericsson with the DRS open going into turn 1. The back end just stepped out instantaneously. Not sure if he had been taking turn 1 with the DRS open previously. But no obvious signs of a car failure causing that incident. Meanwhile, Ferrari in the pit lane. Sebastian Vettel is in. Valtteri Bottas stays out. Bottas will inherit the race lead. Sebastian Vettel should come back in second position. Verstappen also pits. Again, Valtteri Bottas has remained out. Bottas inherits the race lead. His tires are only 12 laps old, and they're the medium compound. However, Vettel now on the soft compound, and they're going to be fresh. Verstappen in the pits. Raikkonen in the pits. Raikkonen also onto the soft compound tires. Raikkonen rejoins in P5, it appears. Medical car deployed there for Marcus Ericsson. Apparently we have had the caution lights come on in the cockpit there. That was a very high-speed impact into the tire barrier. That's why the tires are there, but it never hurts to be too cautious when it comes to making sure that these guys are okay. There is the front end of that Sauber. Left front suspension hanging off the car. Wheel tethers did their job. The monocoque has remained intact, it does appear. Very good. The integrity of the tub looks good. The survival cell looks intact. That's what it's designed to do. The car did its job. Stoffel Van Dorn in the pits and out. He was running in P15. Lewis Hamilton, has he made a pit stop? Checking through timing and scoring. Does not appear that he has stopped. Lewis Hamilton did not stop. He is still on the medium compound tires. They're 9 laps old. Working lap 35 of 52, we are behind the safety car due to a big crash by Marcus Ericsson. Ericsson is fine. The rear end just broke free into turn 1. That is a flat-out corner in 8th gear. Hamilton radio. Lewis Hamilton on the radio saying, I'm not going to be able to compete with these guys on new tires. Lewis, your tires are only 9 laps old at this point, and you're running behind the safety car, so you're not really wearing them out right now. Mercedes on the radio back to Hamilton saying, well, mate, you're the fastest car by miles. Let's see, in replay in slow motion for Charles Leclerc, for Marcus Ericsson rather, I don't see anything break on this car. Not even close. Ayrton, the DRS still being open on Ericsson's car, that's actually not a failure. The DRS zone actually extends through turn 1. Lapped cars now being allowed to overtake and catch up to the tail end of the field. Working lap 36 of 52. Now, this puts Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel, and Lewis Hamilton line astern on the restart. Could Lewis Hamilton win this race? Well, it's now returning to the realm of possibility. Remember, the gaps that had existed between those top three runners, they are now negated, running behind the safety car. It's effectively a new race from here on out. Yeah, Siona, that was a good point. I was somewhat mystified when the FIA announced that the DRS zone was going to be extended through turns 1 and 2. It's been a long time since we've seen DRS open through a corner, and turn 1, although it is flat out in 8th gear for these Formula 1 cars, it is a proper corner. If you were in a road car, you would have to brake and pull a couple downshifts to take it, so I was quite surprised to see that DRS zone extended through turn 1. That's obviously not going to be the case anymore, I would say. Working lap 37 of 52. Safety car is still out. Lewis Hamilton radio. Lewis Hamilton still complaining on the radio about, oh, everybody around me has fresh tires. It's going to be hard to get past. Lewis, your car is 2 seconds a lap faster than anybody else. Single racer, welcome. We're currently running lap 37 of 52 behind the safety car here. Safety car coming in at the end of this lap. Safety car was brought out by a crash for Marcus Ericsson. The Swede is fine. Current race order is Bottas, Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Magnussen, and Alonso, your top 10. Sebastian Vettel just made a pit stop. He is on the yellow sidewall soft tires. Bottas in the lead on 15-lap-old medium tires. Lewis Hamilton in P3 on 11-lap-old medium tires. Sebastian Vettel has the best tires of your top 3. Max Verstappen and Kimi Raikkonen in 4th and 5th also on 3-lap-old soft tires. Mercedes now on the radio trying to console Lewis Hamilton, saying, your pace was very good. Quite honestly, how Lewis doesn't know that he's the fastest car on the racetrack is mystifying. Anyway, Valtteri Bottas now in charge of this safety car restart. Bottas becomes the de facto safety car in just a moment. Lights are out on the safety car. Bottas now starts to back the field up down the hangar straight. Bottas really backing the field up. They're nearly stopped. You're going to have to go faster than that, Valtteri. And Bottas puts the hammer down, and we are coming back up to racing speed here at Silverstone. Green flags are up. Bottas with actually a very decent jump on Sebastian Vettel through the restart. Max Verstappen looking at Lewis Hamilton into the Abbey chicane there. And we are back underway at Silverstone, working lap 38 of 52. Valtteri Bottas leads by half a second over Sebastian Vettel. Lewis Hamilton 1 second behind the race leader. On board with Kimi Räikkönen, getting a little bit of a run onto Daniel Ricciardo. Valtteri Bottas absolutely taking off on the restart, brilliantly judged by the Finn. However, Sebastian Vettel, and in the background, Daniel Ricciardo and Kimi Räikkönen going at it. That's Verstappen and Räikkönen, I beg your pardon. Verstappen has overtaken briefly. Räikkönen running in P4. Verstappen around the outside. Verstappen P4, Räikkönen P5, Räikkönen coming back again. This is some great action. No DRS happening at this time, I should add. Into Copse corner, Räikkönen up the inside. Verstappen runs a little bit wide, but he maintains his position. Verstappen P4, Räikkönen P5. We're coming through the Maggots and Beckes complex. Another car off at high speed. Yellow flag in Sector 2. Who is that? Carlos Sainz. There are two cars off. There's a Renault and a Haas off. This is through Copse corner, I believe. Carlos Sainz and one of the Haas cars. We'll need to see who that is. I can't see through the dust. It is a Haas car. That is Romain Grosjean off with Carlos Sainz in Sector 2, working lap 38 of 52. Romain Grosjean and Carlos Sainz. Safety car deployed again. Safety car is out for the second time. Working lap 39 of 52. Two cars off, I believe this is on the outside of Copse corner. Again, we need a little bit more of a pull-out shot to see exactly where these two men are. Both drivers are emerging from the cars. They appear to be unscathed. Carlos Sainz is still in the car. He's not really making any efforts to get out. Romain Grosjean has emerged. Now Carlos Sainz removes the cockpit surround and he appears to be getting out under his own power. Carlos Sainz, he is standing upright, getting out of the Renault. Good to see. Both drivers appear to be unharmed in this incident. Not so much can be said for the race cars, though. We have not seen how this incident occurred. Now, here we go. It is through Copse corner. I was correct. Carlos Sainz, quite honestly, turned in on Romain Grosjean from as far as I can see from on board with the Spaniard. He knew Grosjean was there on the inside. Grosjean takes the inside. He goes for the apex. Grosjean picks up a little bit of oversteer there, just some snap oversteer, and corrects for it. Sainz is there on the outside. The external shot here comes in a little bit too late. The incident has already happened. We need to see that shot looking down the start-finish straight. Well, the old start-finish straight. I still get this place confused. Not really entirely sure who to blame here, if any blame needs to be apportioned. Romain Grosjean and Carlos Sainz talking it over there. They don't seem to be particularly angry with each other. That's good to see. The Renault still sitting where it had come to rest. No efforts underway at this point to recover that car. Now working lap 40 of 52 under the safety car. In replay, what are we about to see here? There it is through Copse corner. The Haas and the Renault coming together on board once again with Grosjean. It was just the slightest of twitches. Grosjean radio in replay. Haska is just asking Grosjean if he was okay. Obviously, this was after the incident had occurred. It was just the slightest of twitches from the back end of Grosjean's car, and he applied a little bit of opposite lock to correct it, which he did, and then Sainz was right there. Again, you got two guys going for the same piece of tarmac through one of the fastest corners in racing. So, yes, fireworks are bound to occur. None of the front runners dive into the pits. Valtteri Bottas still has the race lead. He is on medium tires that are 18 laps old. Lewis Hamilton on medium tires that are 14 laps old. Sebastian Vettel, still the big winner in terms of the tires in the top three. He's on the soft compound tires, and they're 6 laps old. Incident between Grosjean and Sainz will be investigated after the race. Sim Racer Flight Sim 1000 talking about an interview with Jenson Button. And yes, he says that he enjoyed driving the older cars better. I assume Button was referring to the V10 and V8 era. Certainly I enjoyed watching the older cars a whole lot more than these. These cars are very fast, but they lack a lot of the excitement of the older cars. They don't have the sound in particular, and they don't have the looks either. Again, in replay on board with Carlos Sainz, he's clearly in front of Romain Grosjean through Copse Corner. Carlos Sainz on the radio in replay saying he understeered into me. That's not entirely what happened there. Meanwhile, the safety car period is ending. We're going to see another wild restart. Let's see if Valtteri Bottas can judge this restart as well as he judged the previous one. Working lap 41 of 52. We're going to have 10 laps to go once we get back to racing. Valtteri Bottas could win this race if he judges this restart correctly. However, Sebastian Vettel is on the faster tires, and they're newer. A 10-lap sprint to the end. It's going to be fast and frantic. Lights are out on the safety car as the field heads down Hanger Straight. Valtteri Bottas once again backing the field up tremendously down the first part of Hanger Straight. Waiting for Bottas to launch. Let's see, does he do exactly what he did last time? So far, yes, Bottas does exactly what he did last time. He gets going as he heads into Stowe Corner. Lewis Hamilton took a look at Sebastian Vettel there into Stowe. He thought better of it. Kimi Räikkönen going very wide there in the background. He resumes the racetrack. No problem there. Cars very much gaggled up there through the Abbey complex. And we're back racing on lap 52, on lap 42 of 52. 10 laps to go in the British Grand Prix. Bottas leads over Sebastian Vettel by 0.7 of a second. Sebastian Vettel is within the DRS zone. DRS has not yet been re-enabled. Of course, race control at their discretion to get rid of the DRS, particularly after a safety car restart. Sebastian Vettel right on the back of Valtteri Bottas. At the end of the Wellington Straight, he backs out of that move. He had quite the run on the Mercedes. Through the Luffield corner, coming through the flat-out Woodcote section, down the old start-finish straight, heading toward Copse Corner. Sebastian Vettel definitely has the faster car at this point. Through Copse Corner, Sebastian Vettel definitely takes that corner a little bit better than Valtteri Bottas ahead. Coming through the Mackett's and Beggett's complex here. These very fast and flowing sequences of corners here in Sector 2 at Silverstone. Coming onto the Hanger Straight now. Lewis Hamilton also very close to Sebastian Vettel. Fastest sector time. Sebastian Vettel, fastest of all in Sector 1 at 28.659. Vettel also fastest in Sector 3 at 24.959. This is going to be quite a frantic 9 laps to the finish. Valtteri Bottas leading Sebastian Vettel by 0.6 of a second. Hamilton is just 0.9 of a second behind the race leader. Valtteri Bottas last time by a 131.873. Sebastian Vettel last time by a 131.750. Personal best for Sebastian Vettel. Vettel with another big run on Valtteri Bottas down the Wellington Straight. He's not going to attempt that overtake. The Ferrari is definitely faster than the Mercedes on the balance of the lap, and the Mercedes maybe has a little bit better straight line speed. I agree. It does appear that Sebastian Vettel is waiting for that DRS assistance. I think he certainly could make the move all by himself. He very nearly did on the restart lap. However, he doesn't need to be taking those risks. Max Verstappen cutting the corner there in the background, coming on to the hangar straight. As he is overtaking Kimi Räikkönen, he gives that position back to Kimi. Max Verstappen going very wide through Stowe Corner. Verstappen was completely off the track, I'm led to believe. And we've now got smoke out the back of the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Was that just a little bit of a brake lock up there on the rear end? Or perhaps is there a problem brewing on that Red Bull? We'll keep an eye on it. Car looks fine now. Kimi Räikkönen running in 4th now, ahead of Max Verstappen, who has been dropped down to 5th. He's very near his teammate now. We need a replay on that, but I do believe that Max Verstappen was off the track. Vettel with DRS on Valtteri Bottas down the Wellington Straight. Bottas moves to the inside to defend. Vettel up the outside. This is not where you want to be through this corner. You just understeer City here. Bottas also going wide. Vettel down through the left field corner. Let's see what's going on here. All right, Bottas retakes the lead. Vettel had the lead very momentarily. Bottas goes to the inside into Copse. Yeah, Sebastian Vettel not going to attempt an overtake around the outside through Copse Corner. That's never going to work in a month of Sundays. Anyway, through the Maggots of Beckes complex, leading down to the hangar straight. Bottas gaining a little bit of ground on Sebastian Vettel there. These cars cannot follow that closely nose to tail through these high-speed corners. However, Sebastian Vettel on the DRS again down the hangar straight. He is closing up on Valtteri Bottas. He's not close enough this time by, I believe. However, Kimi Räikkönen trying to attack Lewis Hamilton for P3. He nearly does it. It is Mercedes, Ferrari, working lap 44 of 52 of this British Grand Prix. These 10-lap sprints to the finish, just the way it worked out with the safety car periods that we have had. But this is absolutely brilliant stuff. 8 laps to go. Valtteri Bottas just 0.6 of a second in front of Sebastian Vettel as we head into the infield to begin yet another lap. Kimi Räikkönen also very close to Lewis Hamilton. Any one of these top 4 gentlemen could win this race here. 8 laps is a long time when they're running this close together. Sebastian Vettel with DRS on Valtteri Bottas. Bottas covers off the inside. Kimi Räikkönen trying to get across Lewis Hamilton there. Still unable to move on the Englishman. Top 4 cars running within 2 seconds on the clock. Valtteri Bottas and Vettel pulling away a little bit from Hamilton and Räikkönen. This is absolutely scintillating stuff. A 4-way battle for the win, effectively. This is the best on-track action we have seen all year. Coming down to the hangar straight yet again, Sebastian Vettel with DRS on Bottas. Kimi Räikkönen with DRS on Hamilton. Will any moves happen here into Stowe Corner? Vettel thinking about it, still not quite close enough. Neither is Räikkönen to Hamilton. About to begin lap 46 of 52. The order is Bottas, Vettel, Hamilton, and Räikkönen, your top 4. These are the only guys in play for the win. Max Verstappen has dropped back a bit from Kimi Räikkönen. He's still there in the picture, but he's not quite close enough to effect any sorts of overtakes. Lap 46 now underway. Can Sebastian Vettel overhaul Valtteri Bottas? It is certainly possible. The gap is 0.4 of a second. Lewis Hamilton defending his P3 over Kimi Räikkönen. Sebastian Vettel very close to Valtteri Bottas as we approach the DRS zone down the Wellington Straight. Vettel, of course, with DRS yet again on Bottas. Räikkönen with DRS on Hamilton. Will anybody be able to effect a move? Bottas definitely has the inside covered heading into the tight stuff here to begin Sector 2. The Ferraris here on the soft compound tires, the Mercedes on the mediums. Which was the better decision right now? It appears that they're about equal on performance. The gap between Bottas and Vettel is 0.6 of a second. The gap between Hamilton and Räikkönen is 0.4 of a second. They are right there with each other. Mercedes have definitely turned their engines up. They just appear to have that little bit of a straight line speed edge over the Ferraris, even though the Ferraris have DRS. Sebastian Vettel is starting to run out of time if he wants to get a move done. Perhaps he has already figured out his attack. Meanwhile, a Red Bull pirouettes off in the distance. That is Max Verstappen. He had a spin into the gravel. He has since resumed. Yellow flag was up briefly. It's now been stubbed down. Sebastian Vettel once again very close to Valtteri Bottas. A little twitch from the Mercedes in front there. Could this be all of the disadvantage that Sebastian Vettel needed to see from the Mercedes? DRS down the Wellington Straight. Vettel very close. Sebastian Vettel makes a move for the lead, and he does it. Sebastian Vettel moves into the lead of the British Grand Prix on lap 47 of 52. The Ferrari has overhauled the Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas unable to defend his position. Now, will Mercedes tell Bottas to move over and allow Lewis Hamilton through to attack Sebastian Vettel? Perhaps team orders are going to have to play there if you're Mercedes. Here is that DRS-assisted move by Sebastian Vettel on Valtteri Bottas heading into the start of Sector 2. That was the move that we all saw him planning. Toto Wolff in replay, not liking that. Definitely saying the F word a few times there. And now Sebastian Vettel is gone. He has pulled out a gap already. Waiting for timing and scoring to recycle here. Sebastian Vettel, fastest lap of the race, a 1:30.696. The gap now already 2 seconds between Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas. Ferrari shouting at Sebastian Vettel in all sorts of different languages now. Yellow flag, Sector 1. That is Max Verstappen being pushed back in the Red Bull. That's the Wellington Straight. Lewis Hamilton overtaking Valtteri Bottas. There was the move that I was anticipating. Now Kimi Räikkönen is going to make easy work of Valtteri Bottas, I would think. Lewis Hamilton in P2 on lap 48 of 52. Undoubtedly, that's team orders from Mercedes. Hamilton, clearly the faster car at this point. Kimi Räikkönen looking at Valtteri Bottas in the background. On board with Kimi Räikkönen as he is now in pursuit of Valtteri Bottas, or Räikkönen, yes. Yes, Räikkönen still in pursuit of Valtteri Bottas. Disregard the graphics on the screen. That's showing you the positions in the Drivers' Championship as they currently run. The gap between Vettel and Hamilton is 2.1 seconds. Hamilton is on the older medium compound tires. Sebastian Vettel on the newer soft compound tires. In theory, Vettel should have the faster car at this stage. We'll see if Hamilton is able to make any inroads in the 4 laps remaining. Kimi Räikkönen on Valtteri Bottas down the Wellington Straight. Bottas moves to the inside, but I think he made that move a little bit too early. Räikkönen gets wheel-to-wheel with him. And Kimi Räikkönen with the move. Räikkönen up into P3. The gap between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton remains 2.1 seconds. Finishing the point on Max Verstappen, he is out of the race. Not quite sure what the problem was. Working lap 49 of 52, just 3 laps to go here. 2.1 seconds is the gap between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. In replay, here's Kimi Räikkönen passing Valtteri Bottas for P3. Bottas covered off the inside, but he did it just a bit too early. Ferrari on the radio to Kimi saying, super job, but it's not over. Go and catch Hamilton. Can Räikkönen do it? The gap between Hamilton and Räikkönen is 2 seconds. The gap between Vettel and Hamilton is 2.2 seconds. 3 laps to go. Working lap 50 of 52. And look at this, Daniel Ricciardo now working on overtaking Valtteri Bottas. Once again, we're seeing Valtteri Bottas. He just falls off the cliff. He does not have the ultimate pace. DRS for Daniel Ricciardo on Valtteri Bottas. Not quite close enough this time by through this DRS zone to make a move. Perhaps he'll be making a move down the hangar straight into Stowe. The gap between Vettel and Hamilton is growing. It is now 2.4 seconds. Lewis Hamilton does not have any response for the Ferrari. I'd say Daniel Ricciardo not quite close enough to Valtteri Bottas to attempt to move down a hangar straight. We'll see. Two laps to go, starting lap 51 of 52 of this British Grand Prix, which has turned out to be a sensational order of affairs. Sebastian Vettel almost entirely by himself in that picture. The gap is 2.6 seconds. The Ferrari only has 2 more laps to do. Lewis Hamilton 2.7 seconds behind. Track surface slippery, noted by race control. Sector 2. That could be connected to Verstappen, potentially. We'll see. Pierre Gasly and Sergio Perez in replay here, having a bit of a squabble. Camera's picking up Lewis Hamilton running in second place into Stowe Corner. Also, Lewis Hamilton has only made 1 pit stop today. Beginning the final lap of the 2018 British Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel crosses start-finish for the penultimate time. Lewis Hamilton 2.5 seconds behind the Ferrari. 2.5 seconds, that's asking a lot for Lewis Hamilton to pick up in 1 lap. I don't think it's possible. Kimi Räikkönen is 1.4 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. Räikkönen is still going for it. I don't think he's close enough, though. 2.6 seconds. The gap between Vettel and Hamilton. Half a lap to go. Down the hangar straight as the world feed picks up Sebastian Vettel. Through Stowe Corner for the final time. It's only one more complex remaining between Sebastian Vettel and victory in the British Grand Prix. He turns left, he turns right, he rejoins the start-finish straight, and to the line, Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari win the 2018 British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton in second, Kimi Räikkönen in third. Great drives from both of the Ferrari gentlemen today. This race had Lewis Hamilton written all over it. It was not meant to be. Sebastian Vettel returning to the top step of the podium. Kimi Räikkönen finishing in third, continuing a very consistent run this season for him. Once again, a red car on the top of the podium. Waiting for the rest of the field to cross start finish. Driver of the day voting has given it to Lewis Hamilton. And the TV graphics there, Hamilton with that pose, you might not want to be putting that up on TV. Anyway, our final order as they crossed the line, we only had 14 finishers here. Sebastian Vettel winning the British Grand Prix. P1 for car number 5. P2, Lewis Hamilton. In third is Kimi Räikkönen. Fourth, Valtteri Bottas. Fifth, Daniel Ricciardo. P6 for Nico Hülkenberg. P7 for Esteban Ocon. P8 for Fernando Alonso. Decent drive in the recalcitrant McLaren. P9 for Kevin Magnussen. And P10 in the final points scored by Pierre Gasly. P11 for Sergio Perez. P12 for Stoffel Van Dorn. 13th for Lance Stroll. And 14th, and the last car to cross the line, Sergei Sirotkin. P15, last car classified, although not finished, Max Verstappen, 6 laps down. Not classified and out of the 2018 British Grand Prix, Romain Grosjean, Carlos Sainz, Marcus Ericsson, Charles Leclerc, and Brendan Hartley. The situation in the Drivers' Championship looking like this preliminarily. Sebastian Vettel extends his lead in the Drivers' Championship with 171 points over Lewis Hamilton's 163. Kimi Räikkönen retains P3 in the Drivers' standings with 116 points on the board. Ricciardo with 106 in P4. Bottas with 104 in P5. Max Verstappen drops down into 6th place with 93 points on the board. P7 for Nico Hülkenberg at 42 points. P8 Fernando Alonso with 40. P9 Kevin Magnussen with 39 points on the board. And P10 Carlos Sainz with 28. P11 Esteban Ocon 25 points scored. P12 Sergio Perez with 23. Pierre Gasly in P13 with 19 on the board. 14th for Charles Leclerc with 13 points. 15th in the driver's standings for Romain Grosjean with 12 on the board. P16 Stoffel Van Dorn with 8 points. 17th Lance Stroll with 4. 3 points, and 18th place for Marcus Ericsson, 19th for Brendan Hartley with 1 point on the board, and Sergei Sirotkin at the back in P20 with no points scored. The Constructors' Championship, Ferrari leads the Constructors' Championship with 287 points over Mercedes in P2 with 267. P3 for Red Bull with 199 points on the board. P4 Renault with 70. P5 Haas with 51 points. P6 Force India with 48. P7 McLaren also with 48. P8 Toro Rosso with 20 on the board. P9 Sauber with 16 points, and P10 Williams with 4 points scored. Sebastian Vettel has made it into Parc Fermé, where he is greeting all of his mechanics. Standing by for the post-race interviews, Martin Brundle doing the honors today. See who he speaks to first. Sebastian Vettel has made his way over to Martin Brundle. Sebastian Vettel being quite satisfied here with what happened. Martin Brundle trying to find Lewis Hamilton. Where is he? Hamilton is walking around the back of the pits. He has not gone to Parc Fermé. Brundle talking to Kimi Räikkönen. Lewis Hamilton not in Parc Fermé. He should be there. Kimi Räikkönen looking like he has a point to prove here today. He's definitely not happy about having received that penalty. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton going straight to the prep room. He's not wanting to talk to anybody out in Parc Fermé. That is outside of the post-race protocol. Not quite sure what Lewis Hamilton is trying to prove by ignoring the post-race interviews. Quite honestly, it's unless he somehow got a miscommunication from somebody, it appears to be a very selfish action by Lewis Hamilton. The fans, of course, want to hear from the top three finishers at the end of the race, and Hamilton not allowing us to have that. Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Räikkönen have made their way into the prep room. Hamilton not talking to either of them. See if Seb has anything to say to Lewis. All seems pretty somber in the prep room there. Drivers not talking to each other. Hamilton not talking to anybody. It's waiting for the drivers to make their way onto the podium. The Ferrari team, of course, looking jubilant, as they do whenever they win any Grand Prix. Kimi Räikkönen making his way onto the podium. He's not wearing his sunglasses today. We'll see if he has them in his pocket or something. Lewis Hamilton making his way onto the podium. This is the first time he's actually acknowledged the crowd since the end of the race. And Sebastian Vettel about to make his way out. There he is. Vettel making his way up to the top step. Stand by for the German and Italian anthems. Wonder where we've heard this before. During the podium ceremonies, the fans have absolutely invaded the start-finish straight, as we tend to see at these races. Sebastian Vettel accepting the very classic-looking Silverstone Winners' Trophy. And Ferrari accepting the Constructors' Winner Trophy. Lewis Hamilton getting some polite applause from the crowd as he receives his second place trophy. Kimi Räikkönen getting some boos as he receives his trophy. Obviously, the British fans not so happy with the contact between he and Lewis Hamilton at the start. Kimi Räikkönen being somewhat hesitant there to start spraying the champagne. So far, things actually look somewhat awkward there on the podium. Drivers go up to the top step for the cameras. Now the question remains, will we hear from Lewis Hamilton from the podium? Yes, we do. Martin Brundle makes his way up onto the podium to talk to Lewis Hamilton. Let's see what the reigning world champion has to say. Lewis Hamilton not really saying anything of consequence, just thanking the crowd for being great, thanking everybody for the support, thanking the team, and that's about it. Well, no matter what the fallout's going to be for Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, Ferrari took a win on Hamilton's home soil. Absolutely great to see. This was an excellent race. This was, honestly, I think this was the best race of the season so far. Next round of the championship coming to us from Hockenheim, July 20th through the 22nd, the German Grand Prix weekend. And then 1 week after that, July 27th through the 29th, the Hungarian Grand Prix from the Hungaroring. I do have to say, this was a very cool race. Lots of action, 2 safety cars in as many laps, and yes, we have a Ferrari victory, and that's always something that we like to see here at Ferrariman601. Maurizio Arrivabene now talking to the Sky Sports team, Jenson Button down there. Arrivabene, they're just talking about the trouble that Sebastian Vettel has had all weekend with his neck. Apparently it didn't affect him too badly. Ayrton, yes, I am going to be playing F1 2018. I'm actually somewhat looking forward to it. Christian, people were booing Raikkonen, I assume, for the collision with Hamilton on lap 1. Again, this is Hamilton's home race, and the best fans, of course, are always wherever Hamilton is, and, well, they're obviously not that happy with Kimi Raikkonen, but Hamilton beat Raikkonen on track. Raikkonen served the penalty. Both men still on the podium at the end. Jenson Button there talking to Maurizio, saying, yeah, it's great to see you and McLaren fighting it out. Oh, wait, no, Mercedes. Jenson Button's brain is still stuck in the mid-2000s as well. There we go. Damon Hill now joining Jenson Button there. 2 world champions. Always cool to see that. Hamilton and Raikkonen in replay heading into turn 3. Hamilton is wide, turns in. Raikkonen is on the inside, out of sight of the onboard camera there, just sort of slides into Hamilton. Again, Raikkonen did serve a 10-second penalty for that. All in all, I've got to say this was a great race. Very cool to see. Does anybody have any questions for me about Formula One or sim racing or life in general? We'll open that up for the next couple of minutes. No F1 for 2 weeks. It's actually going to be good. Quite honestly, having a triple header here and doing commentary for all 3 races, it's been a little bit of a logistical challenge, but hey, we've done it. Yes, Bottas did absolutely nothing. Again, this was his race to win. He obviously has the same car as Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton was the fastest car on the racetrack by miles at several points during this Grand Prix, and Bottas just couldn't make anything of it. Sharpie Head asking, what's the schedule for the reviews? Well, there is no schedule for anything, really. Nothing on my channel has any sort of grand plan to it. It just kind of happens when it happens. Jonathan asking, is my weekend car a manual or automatic? That's the BMW 328. Unfortunately, it's an automatic. I didn't buy the car for myself. I inherited the car. And yeah, it's an automatic, but it's a very cool car nonetheless, and we do keep it in good shape. Certainly some impressive overtaking here, and not all of it was a consequence of DRS either. Jonathan, my BMW, it's a 2012, and no, I don't want to take it to the track. The car actually has more sentimental value than anything else, so I don't really want anything to happen to it. There's no point in thrashing it about. It handles pretty nicely. It's got some pretty good horsepower, but it's worth more to me as it is. So I don't really feel the need to take it to a track. Plus, you eat up tires and brakes and whatnot. It's too much money. Sharpie had any plans to get a sports car? Well, someday I would like one. Unfortunately, I don't have any way to get one at the moment, but who knows? No one really ever knows what life has in store for us. As far as an Assetto Corsa server, I still have never figured out how to do it, to be honest. Every time I try to start up a hosted lobby or whatever, I never get anybody in it, nor do I even know if it's even online, quite honestly. I still have never figured it out. What is my dream car? Well, I guess let's break that into two categories. What's something that I could reasonably drive on public roads somewhat regularly, and then what's the ultimate car I would like to have if I could? Dream road car. You know what? I think I would have to say would be the Ferrari F50. A lot of people like the F40, they like the Enzo, they like LaFerrari. I like the F50 because it's got a V12 engine and a manual gearbox. I think that would be the ultimate road car to have. Obviously, not too many of them were made. They're extremely expensive and extremely exclusive, but yeah, if I could, I would really love a Ferrari F50. In terms of dream car of any type, it'd be really cool to have an F2002, an F2004, or a McLaren MP420. Yeah. Of course, those kinds of cars don't change hands very often, but if I could have one, maybe one of each. An F2002, an F2004, and an MP420. Why not? What other YouTube channels do I recommend? Well, my YouTube viewership, it goes across all sorts of different genres, all sorts of different content. Obviously, within the sim racing side, we've got Simracing604, who does an absolutely great job. We have, actually, he's in the comments section with us right now, Jonathan Straitman. He does a great job with his content as well. Obviously, Single Racer, he does a good job. He does a lot of review content, as does SimRacing604. Aiden Millward, who I had a little friendly tussle with yesterday, hot lapping Silverstone. He does a great job. He also does reviews similar to what I do. Who else is there? Obviously, you have your big hitters. You've got Jimmy Broadbent, who puts out some good content, and he's a great driver in his own right. And I'm sure there are others that I'm forgetting, but we do have a lot in the sim racing genre. But outside of that, we've also got some great channels. We have AVE. He's a machinist, I believe. He runs a great channel talking about electronics and machining and things like that. He's always taking stuff apart and explaining how it works. Very cool. Project Farm. He's a good channel as well. He's always doing cool things with lawnmowers. Making the engines run on weird things, alternative fuels and stuff like that. It's really cool to watch. Also, in terms of history and spaceflight, aviation, other interests of mine, I like Amy Shira-Title and her channel Vintage Space. She does a lot of cool stuff there. She's a historian, specializes in the history of aviation and spaceflight, and she's always talking about some really cool stuff in the history of spaceflight. So, yeah, that's also a very cool channel to watch. Detour asking, do I have FSX? Yes, I do, but recently I've gotten Prepared version 4, and that is it's better than FSX. A lot of the architecture is shared with FSX, but it's just been updated a bit, and everything works a whole lot more smoothly, and the interface is a little bit better, and of course the content you can get in terms of the depth of fidelity of stuff, it's really cool. Christian asking, should McLaren work together with Ferrari? Well, do you want Ferrari to be at the back of the grid? No, absolutely not. McLaren have nothing to offer Ferrari. What might have been cool is if Ferrari and McLaren could extend an olive branch to each other and collaborate in the 90s, we'd have F1 cars on the moon by now with the rate of development that was going on back then. Ayrton asking an interesting question. If I owned a McLaren, what would I do to get them to win again? Well, the first order of business would be to fire everybody on the board of directors and to tell most of the investors to take a hike. We'd get Ron Dennis back in there. I don't care how much it would cost. Ron Dennis would be the team principal. I wouldn't care if we had to sell him a 99% controlling stake in the team. We'd get him back in there. I'd somehow figure out a way to get Adrian Newey back involved with the team. I don't know how much money we'd have to throw in his direction, but we would do it. We'd keep Fernando Alonso. Maybe we'd get Jenson Button back in the second seat, at least for the time being. I don't think Van Dorn is the answer for McLaren's problems. Fernando Alonso, he would require a lot of persuasion to stay at this point, but I don't know. If we got a good design team together, who knows? And we'd have to get rid of those Renault engines. I'd be knocking on Mercedes' door every single day. Hey, you going to give us an engine? How about now? You going to give us an engine now? How about if I give you this much money? You going to give us an engine? So, yes, we'd have to get Mercedes engines back. We'd have to get Adrian Newey back. And we'd have to get a good second driver in the team. Detour asking an inherently subjective question. What's the best looking modern F1 car of all time? I personally enjoyed the looks of the V10 and early V8 era cars the best. So in my estimation, I think that's a tough question to answer, really, because there have been a lot of F1 cars throughout the years that have looked really cool. Obviously, the late 90s and early 2000s V10 cars, I love the looks of all of them, quite honestly. I really liked the looks of the McLarens from the late 90s through the early 2000s. The West livery, the white and black and silver cars, they looked absolutely excellent, talking MP413 all the way up through MP420. The Ferraris of the era, of course, starting with the F310 and F310B in 96 and 97, going all the way up through the F2005 and 248 F1. I thought they looked absolutely great. Good liveries and also just nice shape to the car as well. There have been a lot of good-looking F1 cars, quite frankly. Jonathan Straitman asking, when is VRC going to release the 2018 IndyCar? I don't know. I haven't heard anything from the VRC guys in terms of an ETA, but I do know that they're working on it. I know that they were working on finalizing some of the bigger details on the model. The work on that has definitely taken longer than they would have liked. Obviously, they would have liked to release the whole pack as one piece, but they are working on it. I know it is coming, and when it does come out, it's going to be fantastic. VRC, they've done a great job on the other two cars in the pack. I have every reason to believe that it will be well worth the wait for the 2018 car. Cozy McRae asking, if F1 ever were to drop from being the fastest formula of racing, what formulas might grab the title? In terms of open wheel racing, obviously the next contender would be Formula 2 and then IndyCar. IndyCar and Formula 1, they are about 10 to 12 seconds a lap, depending on where we are around the world. That's about the lap time difference between IndyCar and Formula 1 in 2018. IndyCar would be next in line to grab that title, basically, but again, there would be a big gap in terms of all-out lap time. The next racing category that could challenge F1 would be LMP1 over in the WEC. Jonathan Straitman asking, when is your YouTube channel going to be sponsored? You know, I've been approached in the past of getting sponsorship deals or entering into commercial partnerships and things like that, and every time I've turned it down. I don't want this channel to become an overblown thing. I don't want it to become a full-time commitment. I mean, if it were going to be lucrative, I'd definitely be open to doing it, but when you're on the smaller side of life, I mean, we're approaching 3,900 subscribers. It is a big time commitment as it currently is, and for it to grow more, it would have to be more of a time commitment, but it would be quite a long time before it would start to become very lucrative, if ever it would become lucrative. And honestly, I just need to invest that time in other areas of my life, so it's not really something I want. If it were to become a lucrative thing, then sure, I would definitely consider doing it basically full-time, and of course, with more cash flow, I could do different things and more things with it. I have plenty of ideas for things that I just can't do right now with the resources that I don't have, but really, over more than anything else, I value the channel's independence. I don't have to follow a schedule. I don't have to answer to anybody. I can just do what I want to do when I want to do it, and I'm happy to be where it is. Any other questions from anybody? Because we're about to call it quits here. Sky Sports just talking about the rise of Charles Leclerc, really. Jensen Button saying he has been extremely impressive so far this year. Final order, once again, from the 2018 British Grand Prix, looks a bit like this. Sebastian Vettel taking the win over Lewis Hamilton in second and Kimi Räikkönen in third. Valtteri Bottas finishes fourth, Danny Ricciardo in fifth, Hülkenberg in sixth. Seventh is Esteban Ocon, eighth for Fernando Alonso, P9 for Kevin Magnussen, and 10th for Pierre Gasly. P11 for Perez, 12th for Van Dorn, 13th for Stroll, and 14th in the last car to cross the line, Sirotkin. P15 but not finishing, Max Verstappen, and then not classified are Carlos Sainz, Romain Grosjean, Marcus Ericsson, Charles Leclerc, and Brendan Hartley. Fernando Alonso just making some comments to Sky Sports. Kind of looks somewhat satisfied, despite finishing in 8th. Again, punching well above the weight of that McLaren. At this point, we are gonna call it quits for the live stream here today. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. Again, this has been the 2018 British Grand Prix. We have a little bit of a break now before the weekend of July 20th, the German Grand Prix from Hockenheim. Going to be cool to see Formula 1 going back to Hockenheim. Of course, the crowd will be very much behind Sebastian Vettel. We'll see how Ferrari do in Germany. Until then, though, stay tuned here on Ferrariman601 for some new content always headed your way. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining me here today. It's been great. You guys truly are the best fans. Until next time, Ferrariman601 saying thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you soon.